Only 3 years after Charles Darwin published The Origin of the Species, William Reed established the business that still bears his name today, William Reed Business Media. In 1862, the first issue of The Grocer was published, and many of the values it laid out in that first issue are as relevant today as they were then, including providing its readers with the best obtainable information, which is of the most essential, nay, of vital importance for every member of the trade. At this time, the American Civil War was in full flow, and Otto von Bismarck became Prime Minister of Prussia. 1862 also saw other great companies established, like Rowntree's and Bacardi. Also, Louis Pasteur developed the principles of pasteurization. In 1912, William Reed celebrated its 50th birthday, the same year the Titanic sailed out of Southampton on her fateful maiden voyage. In the following year, 1913, a trade association called the PPA was set up by a number of publishers, and William Reed's son, Lester Reed, was a founding partner. The association is alive and well today, and throughout that time, for nearly 100 years, there has been a member of the Reed family on the board, which Charles recently chaired through a period of change and modernisation. In 1922, The Grocer, as always first with the news, reported that Sainsbury's had become the biggest retailer in the UK, a title they were to retain for some 73 years. By the early 1930s, the BBC had started broadcasting the first TV series, and IBM had launched its supercomputing machine that was to be the forerunner of the computer and nicknamed the Packard. Alexander Fleming first discovered penicillin in 1928, the world's first antibiotic, and the catalyst that saw the emergence of the now huge pharmaceutical industry. William Reed was to move into this sector some 70 years later with specialist digital media. This whole period was overshadowed by 2 world wars, during which time Lester, and later his son Christian Reed, published The Grocer continuously as a major contribution to the war effort. It became a crucial means for the government to communicate with the food and retail industries. Even if their products were not available during the hostilities, many suppliers used The Grocer to communicate economical recipes just to keep their names before the trade. Following the 2 wars, the world was never to be the same again. The music industry took off, and with it, fashion and the creation of aspirational brands. In 1962, William Reed was 100 years old, the same year that Sam Walton opened his first Walmart store and James Bond came to our screens for the first time in Dr. No. The Rolling Stones made their debut in the Marquee Club. Also that year, the freeze-drying technique was perfected, leading to the launch of Smash, well known for its distinctive advertising, and avocados were first made widely available through Sainsbury's and Marks & Spencer's. In 1965, Asda was formed when Associated Dairies and Farm Stores Limited merged with the retail chain Asquith that had 3 stores. And in 1966, England won the World Cup. And 2 years later, 1968, Alan Sugar founded Amstrad. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind took the first man to the moon in 1969. In 1999, William Reed's first website, grocerjobs.co.uk, was launched, which now has 60,000 users and far outweighs the traditional print version. Then, the millennium bug that never was took us into a new century and the peak of the first dot-com bubble. From 2000 to 2010, William Reed grew rapidly through acquisition and organic growth. Exhibitions such as FoodX and Food and Drink Expo led the growth for a new medium for William Reed, which combined with awards and events is now a cornerstone of the business. The euro became legal tender in 2002. The same year the world's 50 best restaurants was launched. From humble beginnings, it is now considered to be more relevant in contemporary terms than Michelin. England was on a mission as Johnny Wilkinson drop-kicked his way into the history books in Australia in 2003. The same year that Apple launched iTunes, which at the end of last year had cumulatively downloaded 16 billion tracks. A year later, in 2004, Facebook was launched, which has changed the way we communicate with each other, and as part of the social media revolution, transformed how we as a business engage with our users. Facebook now has nearly 1 billion users, with Twitter and LinkedIn approaching 200 million each. Smartphones and mobile tablets have accelerated the structural change in media, with Apple forecasting global sales of 55 million iPads and 116 million iPhones this year alone. An increasing amount of traffic on our website comes from mobile devices. William Reed has moved to meet the challenge of the structural changes in our media by investing in digital and high-value information. In 2009, William Reed acquired Food Navigator and its associated brands in Montpellier, and 2 years later, HIM, the market-leading shopper insight business. International expansion is also key to our future, and has started from our recently opened offices in New York to the running of the Asia's 50 best restaurants in Singapore. 2012 is a landmark year, with the Diamond Jubilee of Her Majesty the Queen, the Olympics and the Paralympics in London, and of course, 2012 is also the 150th birthday of William Reed Business Media.